Welcome, Sybil, to the Sybil. See. Welcome to the podcast Stories Unfolded. It's nice to be here with you in person, which is not often that we have this. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here and accepting my invitation. So, let's start really with some icebreakers just to kind of break the ice. So people can place you in the world map. Where are we currently located?
We're in São Paulo, Brazil.
But where would you normally be? Because this is not a normal scenario. Where are you really going to be in 3 days?
I'll be home in Port Macquarie, Australia.
Nice. Your favorite morning routine?
Not sure. Waking up, stretching, or running to the bedroom because the kids are screaming and calling me.
Your favorite morning routine?
I don't know if I have one.
What would you do if you could choose the perfect morning? How would it look like?
Probably stretch and go outside in the sunshine. Yeah.
Sounds pretty relaxing.
With the bare feet on the grass.
Sounds perfect.
Not in the winter.
With a sock in the winter. Yeah. Okay. What will one always find in your fridge?
No, you always find in the fridge. There'll be some maple syrup. There'll be some tamari sauce and maybe some almond butter. What else is always there? Pesto.
Yum.
Vegetables. Nuts.
A lot of things are full fridge. That's good.
It's a family fridge, I guess.
Yeah, but the essentials are cool. If you could choose a superpower, what would it be?
I'd love to fly.
Me too.
And see the world from all the way up there.
Yeah.
Observe everything and everyone and just glide.
What would you observe?
Just life and colours and the forest and the birds, the other birds.
Yeah,
I'll probably be an eagle, I guess, because I'll be flying above the other birds. Just listening to the music and just gliding with the air.
Sounds really romantic.
What about you?
That's actually always my choice as well. I would always go for flying as well, exactly because of that reason as well, just to see things from above, from the high perspective, eagle eye view. Okay, how would you describe yourself if I was meeting you for the first time? I mean, I know you for many years, but let's say...
Forever. I've known you forever.
Actually, I've known you forever. You haven't known me forever.
Yes, I have.
Since my existence, but not since your existence, because I only came when you were 6.
Correct, but okay. Yeah. But I've known you from the tummy, mum's tummy, I guess.
Fair enough.
Okay, so what was it?
How would you describe yourself? Yeah.
Oh, I have no idea how I would describe myself. I am a woman, a strong woman, a mother, a friend, a wife. I love being in nature. I'm pretty simple, I think.
Simple? What do you
As
mean?
in, I don't need much. I love moving. Another description, I guess. Yeah, I love moving whichever way. It could be walking and doing yoga, going for a swim, whatever, moving, dancing.
Dancing.
I think that's how I would describe myself, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. What else would someone... I guess I would see what other people are interested in knowing about me, I guess.
Well, yeah, that's actually a really good answer. No, I mean, to be honest, it's a question that I do because many people in the corporate world, if you ask who are they, and they will answer a lawyer or a doctor or whatever else. And that's why it's a question I like to do, because until now in this podcast, I've never got one of those answers. So, I mean, I choose the people that I interview. But it's just kind of the thought to say that you're not your job, you're more than that. So I think your answer gave a pretty much a overview of who you are in a few phrases.
Cool.
But I think it's a good exercise for one to think about that as well. To just like, who are you? And how would you describe yourself to other people?
But I think it's a very complex answer too, or question, because you can't just simply say, who are you? I am me.
Well, there you go.
That might mean anything to you, but I am me.
Yeah. But then I can, as you said, I could ask you then, okay, but what does that mean? What do you like to do? Are you a mother? Are you a wife? Are you a traveler? How do you earn your money? Do you earn any money? Or, I don't know. And then, as you said, it depends on what the person is interested on. They're going to ask you about that specific thing, I guess. But next time someone asks me, I'm just going to say I'm me. And you are who?
Exactly. I'm me.
I'm me, and you are? Okay. So many people might not know this, but you were a reference for me when choosing to study abroad, just because I always saw how you traveled around and did your things. So I got really inspired by you. I mean, you studied in Switzerland, and then after you met your now husband, you moved to Dubai, but now you're living in Australia, where you've created your home, your family during, how many years has that been now?
I've been in Australia since 2011, so 12 years.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, you constructed your life there. But when you were studying tourism in Switzerland, did you imagine living the life that you're living now?
No. How could you really? You can't really know where you're going and where you'll be. You know, I started studying in 2003, which is 20 years ago. Well, 2003 I left Brazil, so 2004 I probably started studying. So yeah, 22 years ago I went to uni, so that's a long time ago. And I guess at uni you study something you're interested in and you like. You know, I studied tourism management and business management because that's what I love doing. I love traveling. Every holiday I was traveling. I worked on the weekends so I could travel. So I knew that I wanted to travel and be around different people, learn different cultures, learn different languages. At some stage I spoke 10 languages and I knew that that's what I wanted, and I had no idea where I would end up, and I don't think I ever thought like that, knowing where I would go. Of course, when I met Jason, I knew that we would probably end up in Australia because he's Australian. But, you know, we met in Spain, and for 2 years we travelled all over Europe when we finally then moved to Dubai, and we travelled all over the Middle East and wherever else. So, yeah, no, I didn't know that I would end up. And it's nice to know that I was an inspiration for your travelling. I guess you were only 12 years old when I left home.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. I was still playing. I didn't know a lot of things yet. Yeah.
I didn't know many things either when I left home. Who does?
I know, but I mean, you know, you were working already. Like, I remember you doing internships before leaving to Europe, and I mean, for me, that was a very abstract life still, because I wasn't even in high school yet. So, but still, like going into high school and everything, I saw you traveling and meeting other people. And I mean, I think why I asked this question is I was also curious because, I mean, people sometimes, if they start at university, they have a bit of an imagination of a career plan of what you want to be, or, you know, if you start working.
Some people have an idea, some people don't.
Yeah, I know. Some, that's what I say. I mean, some people do. You kind of create an imagination of where you would want to get at, or
what you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
I guess I love traveling, and that's why I studied tourism.
Exactly, but then it also makes sense to not know where you're going, or not know where you're gonna be, or what you're gonna do, because it's so broad. That's exactly, and that's exactly what brought you to these studies. Exactly, wanting to be around and wanting to live new experiences, and that's exactly what you ended up.
Yeah, and also because I started studying business management in one of the best universities in Switzerland, and I went to uni with people going to uni in high heels and makeup and everything, and that's just not me. I did not fit. I'm like, no, I can't handle this. I'm not going to be here for 3-4 years. I can't do this. And that's when I found a place where I could study tourism management, and there I found the people that were like me. They were wearing sneakers or tennis, whatever you call them, and whatever clothes to go to uni, because, you know, whatever, it doesn't matter. And that's just how I found, you know, I guess my tribe, I guess my people that wanted to study and were the same way as me. They had travelled around the world, they had a passport, they knew other cultures, spoke other languages, and yeah, I guess it's a more open-minded head.
Yeah, people that study that, they automatically, as I said, they have this interest, right? And they probably also have been traveling already, so they come already from a background with a lot of culture, a lot of different experiences.
It's just where I connected, I guess, with other people.
But I mean, just like a bit of a retrospective. So yeah, you studied tourism, but you didn't work that much with tourism at the end, did you?
No, well, I finished university and I went straight to Dubai. But as it is today, it was also back in the day that when you finish uni and you would look for a job, all they wanted is experience. I only had experience in a lot of traveling. I didn't have experience in managing a town or the tourism management of a city or anything. So when I moved to Dubai, where I could find a job was marketing. I went into marketing and organising events, which I loved. I love organising, and I really enjoyed that. But then for a while, I was marketing, Shivas and whatever other alcoholic drinks, and I don't drink. So it was a bit funny to be marketing something that I'm not really standing behind. So I'm like, okay, no, I left that. And then I worked in a development company for a while, and I was a PA of a CEO. And then the crisis hit while we're in Dubai, and
just
lots of people...
Quickly, sorry, PA, personal assistant, we're just talking about it in the morning. For some other people, it could be physician assistant, but no, it's personal assistant.
And then the crisis hit, and obviously marketing is often where they cut first, because that's, promotion, and you don't really need that if you're running out of money. You can't really put any money in it. And then I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with myself? And I've always enjoyed being with children, and children have always enjoyed my company. So I'm like, you know what? I might try and get a job in an early childhood centre, a nursery, or however it was called in Dubai. There's so many different names for the same thing. Just a preschool, a school for children that are not in school yet.
How old are the kids then?
They're under 6.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I worked with the little ones, so there were 2 and 3. Pre-nursery it was called. And then I did a diploma in early childhood or childhood services, whatever it's called now, in Australia. So distance learning while I was living in Dubai and working with children, knowing that I would probably move to Australia. And why to Australia? Well, because Brazil is just not safe anymore. I don't feel safe living in Brazil and having a family in Brazil. And Australia has very similar temperatures and vibe. I guess the people are warm.
I just recently heard the description of Australia from a Brazilian saying that Australia is Brazil that worked out well.
That's it. Exactly. And that's why I knew that, we wouldn't be able to start a family in Brazil, but we would end up in Australia. So I did a diploma there. So I knew that when we did move to Australia, I would have something to do there. I would have something to back onto if I needed to. And then I worked a lot with children in Dubai, which was ridiculously interesting. People from all over the world. And I had quite a bit of contact with the Emiratis, the local families. A lot of very good talking, and I learned so much about the culture and the language and everything. It was amazing.
So interesting. Yeah, I mean, I visited you in Dubai, and it's a parallel world, right? Like there are all the things that you say and the people that you meet. It's so international.
So that was in education, which was not what I had originally studied in tourism. I was still learning so much about people and cultures, which is the reason I had chosen to study tourism.
It's so even get a bit of a goosebumps here, because it's that, right? Like sometimes you're pursuing something, but you actually find it in ways that you didn't think that you would actually find it. So as you said, like you're studying as a teacher, but actually you were getting exactly what you would have hoped while you were studying tourism, right?
I guess it was also because it was in Dubai. Dubai is such an international place. I worked in early childhood in Australia later. People there didn't even have a passport, had never left their towns.
Wow.
So it was just the lucky thing of being in Dubai at that time and being able to have a contact with children from all over, and so many different walks of lives and different families.
And also different ways of educating, I guess, as well.
Yeah. The teachers that were teaching with me were from all over the world as well. So I have a dear friend who's from the Philippines, and she was teaching in the classroom next to me. And there was an Australian one there. There was a Turkish teacher. So even just that, the people I was living with or working with.
I just kind of gonna say a little bit of an apologies here. We have a bit of an interference in the surrounding. I'll stop a little bit quickly. Sorry about that. We're a bit on an improvised scenario around here. But we'll resume. So just going back, so Sybil was just saying about the difference between the school in Australia and in Dubai. So I think that's already a good pickup for the next question. So 8 years ago. So yeah, you went from Dubai to Australia, and then in Australia you worked a little bit in a school there, right?
Well, when I arrived in Australia, I wasn't allowed to work because I didn't have a visa, so I couldn't work for 1.5 years. And the way I didn't know absolutely anyone. The way I met people was volunteering. I volunteered a lot at the community garden. I started the community garden. I was in the group that started, and then and yoga in the gym. That's how I met people. So 1.5 years later, I got a visa. I could work. And I got a job in early childhood because I had the diploma and I was qualified and I had the experience from Dubai. Working with children there was good, but a lot of the values there were very different to my values, to the way I saw how childhood was.
So, yeah, that was 8 years ago. You decided to leave that. I remember you talking about it. I remember how unhappy you were and that you were struggling with the management, also your position in there. And I remember a bit of a struggle there. And you decided to leave and you went to India for a month, still married, still with your bases in Australia. You went on your own. But then you went back to Australia to start actually creating the first nature school in Australia. So you left the conventional path to create the school that you were actually envisioning, I guess. And the nature school was inspired by the Scandinavian forest schools. And then with two friends, you have actually revolutionized the country's schooling system, where parents choose to live in Port Macquarie, which is where you're living now, because of the nature school, which is the name of the school. Could you tell us a bit more about this transition and how was this journey? And with your friends, I remember doing that you guys did a lot of research as well in these forest schools. And yeah, tell us a little bit about this transition.
Yeah, I was just remembering, it's actually a little bit more over 8 years ago. It was 9 years ago because I left the early childhood. I was working full time and then I started going part time. I'm like, you know what? I'm still not liking this. Part time is not helping here. And I got in trouble for letting a child play in a puddle.
No way.
Yeah,
seriously.
because the child went home, or the mum came and she had wet clothes and I hadn't changed anything yet, and then I got in trouble for that. And I'm like, nah, this is wrong. This is ridiculous.
Goosebumps. This is crazy.
So I'm like, nah, I can't do this. So I left. And then in November of that year, it was summer in Australia, and I had a picnic with two friends. And we were talking about childhood and early childhood and education. And I didn't have my own children yet. They did. They had children already. And they were saying how nice it would be if there was an early childhood or something for kids to play outside, to play in nature, to be, climb trees and run around, rather than being in four walls in an environment where you're, now you do this and now you sit down for read a book and now you do art and craft. So we're like, okay, well, why don't we do it? Let's do something. Let's start it. Like the forest schools in Scandinavia. So we looked into it, and in the 1950s, they started doing these in Scandinavia. Of course, Scandinavia, the kids go outside in snow, in horrible cold weather. Well, for me, it seems horrible.
Yes.
It's not really horrible, but very, very cold weather. And then we didn't come up with it, but we used that saying that says there's no bad weather, but only bad clothing. And okay, let's do it. Okay, but I knew that I was going to India in February of the next year.
So you had decided about this to open up the school before you went to India.
Oh yeah.
I didn't remember that information.
So while I was in India, I was doing my teaching course, I guess, to teach yoga. To be able to teach yoga. It was an amazing, very intense time. It's so different to be in India. It was awesome. But while I was there, I was also on the phone with my two friends back in Australia. That's Lloyd and Jody. And we were talking about names of the business and what we'd do and whatever. So when I came back from India, pretty much a few days later, we incorporated the Nature School, Inc.
Wow.
We came up with that name. We had so many other names on the list. And then soon after, we started a Facebook group. I don't think Instagram was even around then. Or maybe.
Yeah, it was probably in the early beginnings of it.
But we started a Facebook group and just putting, quotes and ideas and things about children learning in nature. And soon we had 1,000 followers, and we're like, whoa, and we haven't even started doing anything. It was just the name of an organization and ideas and pictures and quotes.
It was an inspiration, a life inspiration.
And we soon saw that obviously there was a demand for it. People really wanted that. People wanted that change in early childhood. So we're like, okay, let's start something. Let's do a pilot program. So in July, we started. So that was winter in Australia. So Jody was doing all the administration and Lloyd and I were on the ground with the kids. So of course, as you're starting, our capital was zero. So we just gave our time. So it was a volunteer. We got a bit of money from the government and from Australian Geographic because Lloyd is an adventurer and he had all the contacts. So we got the first bit of gear, like a tent for crazy weather, a toilet, and, magnifying glasses and binoculars. And then we started. We gave all our time for that, I think. And then I think we only did 1 day or 2 days. And then soon, as it started picking up, the parents were paying for a fee, of course. We started being able to pay ourselves a salary, and then went to 3 days a week. And now it's 5 days a week, and every day is full. It's pretty cool.
How many kids were there in the first group? Like how many?
I don't remember. We did, I think, back then we did a maximum of 15 kids, I believe. So we tried and looked, because I had worked in an early childhood centre, I knew what the regulations and the rules were and what the ratio was of how many adults or how many children per adult. So I knew how everything had to be. The only thing was we didn't fit in any of the boxes of the education system because there were none like us anywhere. Every child that goes to a preschool goes into a building, not into the bush, into the forest.
Exactly.
And to be outside from 9 o'clock to 3 in the afternoon, it was a very different concept. And it still is, but now there's a lot of other ones like us are similarly popping up everywhere in Australia, and I don't know, around the world. I believe around the world as well. There's some in Brazil as well.
Yeah. It's. I mean, in Switzerland there has been already for a while as well. But
Switzerland as well, exactly. The Wald kindergartens. And then we never fit in a box. Although we were ticking all the boxes, we couldn't actually be registered or recognized as a registered organisation, which means the parents could not actually get a rebate. So they had to pay the full fee to have their children there.
So it's kind of a private option.
It's a private, So it's still like that, and we would love for every child to have the opportunity to go, but because it's not registered, many parents do not have the monetary, the funds to actually be able to put their children there. But then, so the children that we started the pilot program with in 2015, they started getting older and they had to go to school. So we didn't actually get to the primary going until the kids were already in kindergarten, which is the year before, year 1. But at some stage we had about 50 people helping out in getting a primary school happening. There was so much to do, so many policies, so many procedures, everything with zero money. Again, because you're starting a school. The government doesn't help you start a school. Once you have children enrolled, you get help from the government.
It's kind of that typical, it's just going to do a parallel, but in Switzerland, you can only open a business when you have a business running.
Huh?
So it's kind of the same thought, I guess, just what came into my mind. It's just like you can only apply to become self-employed or to open a limited company or whatever, to open some kind of company structure. You can only apply after you can prove that you have had invoices, that you have a website, that you have a business actually running.
But are you allowed to have a business running without being registered?
You need a business running to register. So that's kind of the same. That's why I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of a similar. I feel like it's a similar thing, that you can only get help of the government when you have everything already running. But then, of course, it's nice to have help of the government, but you need the money to actually get all of the things running.
Yeah. So it was. We had to start a primary school. So that's kindergarten. We started with kindergarten, year 1 and year 2. So we had to ask the parents to pay an upfront fee before the school started, so we could actually pay for the principal. We could pay for that first teacher. And that first teacher is still involved in the nature school.
That's amazing.
She is the head teacher and the principal of the nature school.
Wow. How did you guys find her?
I wasn't involved in the nature, but she said that she had already been following the school for many, many years. And then she had always known that she would want to be involved there. And she's a very passionate woman. It's pretty amazing that she's still involved. And I hope she stays involved. Catherine, if you're listening to this, please.
Here's the message for you.
Yes, and now this year we started 7th grade. So the secondary school started, and I remember one of the first meetings. Obviously, I'm not involved in any of the organisation anymore, but I remember one of the first meetings that we did with the founders, obviously the 3 of us, and Catherine asked each one of us where we saw the nature school going, and I said university.
Wow, that's
We'll see.
amazing. I mean, to be honest, it's amazing to see the whole development that you guys have been. I'm still including you in there because even though you're not like participating in the administration anymore, I think you're part of the core of the thing. If it wasn't for you and the two others, I think that Jody and Lloyd are still involved, or they're...
Lloyd is the teacher at 7th grade, so he's
nice.
the teacher,
Cool.
the main teacher in the high school.
I would love to have some classes with Lloyd.
Yeah, he's amazing. And then Jody, she's not involved in the organisation. She's a parent as well in school, just like me.
Yeah, we'll go back to that in a bit. But I think it's impressive to see the entire development and how you guys have been, recognized by the government and starting high school. It's so powerful to have a nature school in high school. Like, I think I always saw already for primary school, like kindergarten or things like that, but I never heard about a high school following this principle. Is it in Scandinavia? Do they have that? Do they have a university, or?
I don't know. I wouldn't know. We'd have to have a look. I know that in Switzerland they have schools.
High school as well. Yeah, exactly.
School.
High school, I've never heard about it.
But the thing is, like the concept in the early, so the preschool, when the children are under 6, they're outside the whole time. But in a school, once the primary school starts, and to be registered, you have to have a building. So, and the curriculum is exactly the same as the other schools. It's just delivered differently. And that was the idea when we started the primary school, to show other schools what is possible. The educational system is probably about 200 years old, and it hasn't been changed. It's still that same following, the same remembering things and everything that would take to go and work in a factory later. But the world has changed in 200 years, and children need different things. So although they're ticking the same boxes, so they're learning the same concepts that every other child in other schools in Australia or in New South Wales learn, they're learning it in classrooms outside. So every second week they go and have an experience outside. They go to the bush, the forest, or the beach, or they have an excursion, which other schools don't do it that frequently. And they have projects. There's a lot of problem solving involved and everything. So although they're still ticking the same boxes, they're just learning differently. They sit on the ground a lot in circles. They have a morning meeting, everyone's in circle, everyone respects each other, everyone listens to each other. All these things that often don't happen in schools. Often it's the teacher at the front saying what you need to do, everyone else is sitting on the chairs and listening.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And also one of the things that you told me recently, we were talking even about it last weekend, the kids in the nature school don't get homework.
Correct.
Because they do their time in school, and that's the time that they have. And when they're at home, they're developing other skills or other things, or like it's super interesting how you can learn the same things but in a different way, as you said. How does it work? I have actually 2 questions regarding that. One is, you mentioned ticking the boxes, right? Did they have, in a normal school system, you have exams or you have certain things that you have to pass to be eligible to go to the next level, let's put it that way. How is it with a nature school? Do they have to have exams at the end of the year to actually go to the next class, or how does that work?
I'm not entirely sure how it works because I'm only a parent in year 1. I believe in primary school there are no exams, but you're still ticking the same boxes, and a teacher with 18 children in a classroom, they know each child. It's not like a classroom. Many of the classrooms in Australia is one teacher and 30 children. So it's a more of a one-on-one thing. So they will see if a child is falling behind, if it's reading or maths, and they will try and offer them help to get to the same level as the other children in the same class. So I don't think there are exams, but they observe and they know because of the projects, the way they're writing, the way they're reading. They have lots of reading groups, and they try and put the kids together in different reading groups. So they just observe, and I think they know. I don't know how it is in high school. I don't know if there are exams, but there's still... An exam doesn't necessarily prove your knowledge. Exactly. An exam doesn't prove if you know how to think collaterally, if you know how to be respectful to other people. Exactly. That will only be observation in day-to-day life.
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm wondering.
What the focus is. It's not on knowing if 1 + 2 is 3.
It's understanding.
It's understanding the concept. It's looking at one piece. Okay, you see one little ball and you see another 2 balls. You know that is 3. Yeah. For example, it's
Yeah, no, for sure. But I know. I mean, if you have stories or know, I mean, maybe you're gonna experience that with your kids, which we're also gonna go back into that. But if there's then a contrast between kids being taught at nature school versus a kid being taught at a normal school system, if one can see the difference, or if there's a difficulty in interpersonal behavior between both, because it is a different way of learning and of living at the end of the day.
There hasn't been a study done. I would love to get someone to study this, but some of the children that finished Year 6 last year decided not to continue in high school at the nature school, and then went to another school, another high school. And it will be really interesting to speak to those teachers and see from their point of view how different the children that from the nature school came, how different they are, how different they are in solving issues, solving problems, communicating with other people.
Exactly.
Because that's what the skills are that are important.
Yeah, it would be interesting to do a study like that to understand, how different the difference that the education system actually does make. So you mentioned your kids and that you're not anymore active in the school administration, and you chose to focus your energy more on actually administrating your home, which is a very complex thing. It's an art, and taking care of the kids, as well as still giving yoga classes, following the trainings from India. The kids, as you mentioned, are of course enrolled in the nature school, and I know that you guys as a family, you follow a very sustainable lifestyle in very different aspects, which demands also a lot of attention. That's why I understand also the need of you administrating everything, because there's a lot of things. I mean, time and dedication to actually live this sustainable lifestyle in a family. I mean, you also have a dog, you have chickens, you have a huge garden. What does it mean to actually live sustainably for you? And how do you actually follow that in the household with the kids?
So living sustainably obviously will mean different things for different people. But the way I see it, it's not the right way or the wrong way, it's just my way. What is sustainability, right? What does it mean? For me, it means that my grandchildren will be able to have the same lifestyle as I do. Okay, so the way I'm living is a way that we'll be able to continue. Now, if you think about it, let's talk about salt. Yeah, we were talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
Where does your salt come from? There's this whole propaganda on Himalayan rock salt. It's good for you, has good minerals and whatever. Have you ever thought about how many kilometers that salt flies to get onto your table? Is that sustainable? Will your grandchildren be able to have the same salt? You know, how much petrol, diesel, whatever it is that the airplanes use, is being burnt to get that salt onto your salad. And that's what I try to think about every single thing that we do at home. It's a lot, but once you start,
there's no way back.
No, there's no way back, because I don't want to buy salt from Pakistan. I buy salt from Australia, from the Murray River, where I know that the basin is actually being protected, or is being helped by taking the salt out of the ground there. And if I couldn't find salt in Australia, I probably would just not have salt. I actually planted a plant, which is called saltbush, that the Aboriginals used to use as salt. There are plants that are salty. Look at celery. Celery is salty. You can use celery instead of salt. So it's looking at things that, again, anything that your grandchildren will not be able to do is probably not sustainable. Like I think of the car, okay? We still have a normal car that burns petrol. I don't know if my grandchildren will still have petrol around. There's so many people in the world. There's so many people using petrol every single day, burning petrol. That comes from the ground. That's a finite resource. It's not sustainable. So that's just how we look at things, and everything that we eat as well. So we buy meat. We eat meat. We're flexitarians, and we eat meat straight from the farmer. We pretty much almost know the animals that we're eating. Same with the chicken. We hardly eat fish because I worry about the plastic that is in the ocean and all the waste that goes into the ocean, all the microplastic that they're eating, and we would end up eating too. And the same with the vegetables. I buy straight from the farmers. I try and grow a lot of food, but it takes a lot of time to grow a lot of food. It takes a lot of time.
And a lot of effort as well.
A lot of effort and attention, and you learn. There's so many fails as well, and you learn from the failures. You know, I've killed so many plants. so many plants. But, I have quite a bit of sweet potato growing at the moment, and I have a lemon tree that is happy and an avocado tree that is happy and the pomegranate. And, it's just, and it's so nice when you do manage to make a plant survive. And you end up with a melon, even if it's just one. It's so exciting to get a melon from the garden.
And it's sweet and it's beautiful. And
exactly. And if it's not sweet, sometimes it happens. I just have to learn what's the soil lacking that will make it sweet. And that's the other thing of sustainability. Where is your food coming from? Whatever you eat, whatever nutrients, the nutrients that will be on your food are coming from the soil. So if the soil is depleted, if you're eating food that comes from a soil that has had the same crop for many, many years, it's going to have the depletion. It's not going to have every nutrient that it could have. So if you know where you're buying the vegetables from, if you know that soil is rich, that they're adding to it, adding compost, adding organic matter, adding, if the soil's full of worms, then you know that the food that you'll be eating will actually be real food.
Yeah. No.
Otherwise, it's just like eating packaged food. Like there's a lot of packaged food that's like it's nothing.
It's only processed something.
It's really, it's quite sad. And do you think about your grandchildren?
Yeah, I think that's a good way of thinking it. Like, I think a lot of people don't think like that, right? But I think that's a nice perspective to have. Like, in the 2 generations from now, are they going to be able to do the same thing or not?
And I like to think of the soil, because soil is so important for so many things. So the more you give to the soil, the more the soil will give you. So the more you put in, the more effort you put in, mulch and compost and food for the soil. Then if you're eating that food, where does that come from? From the soil. So you need to keep feeding it. It's taking stuff out.
You gotta give it back. So
if you keep taking it out, there's not going to be anything left. If you look at many farms where they have, thousands of sheep and cows and things, and they're always in the same piece of land, always eating that grass, year after year after year. That's why in Australia now there's no selenium in the ground too. It's depleted of selenium. So unless you eat nuts that are not from Australia, you will be depleted too. And that's with any nutrient, with anything.
How do you, going back a little bit to logistics, and a lot of people see a sustainable lifestyle as something difficult to pursue and something difficult to keep on a daily routine.
It's time consuming.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to go to the supermarket and buying everything there. I choose not to. I think it's about priorities. What is important for you? What is important for your family? I like my family to have proper nutrients, so for me that's really important.
So how do you, is there any tips or ways of doing it? Also, I see that you include the kids a lot in the process as well. They help. You were here and you were just saying, hey, Alia, that's Sybil's daughter. Could you just go out and see if
the rockmelon is ready?
Exactly. Could you just pick it up and see if it's ready? And if it is, take it and bring it to the kitchen. How do you have any tips, or do you have any ways of how people could actually introduce some of that more into their lifestyles? Because I imagine one thing is doing the sustainability part, which is already very time consuming, as we were saying, and the parenting part. People around me are becoming parents, and I see it's a lot of work. It's a tough job. How do you include both in a way that it's nice and you can actually also have your life as a woman as you? So
there's a lot of things in that. One of the tips I have for making a life more sustainable is knowing that you're not alone and not doing it alone, not trying to do it alone. There's no point. It's hard when you live in a city and you don't have a lot of land to grow food. It may be harder, but you may still have a balcony. You can grow your herbs. Swap them with someone else. See what you grow that, and then someone else may grow something else. I've decided last autumn, that I would not grow pumpkins anymore because I cannot grow pumpkins. But I can grow bananas. So I swap with a friend who can grow pumpkins, and she can't grow bananas because where she is too cold.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So I think having that community sense is really, really, really important as well. So if you live in a town where you have houses, people will have gardens, people may be growing things. Try and connect, try and talk. We're very used to in our society just live our own lives in our own little box and not talking to anyone. Who doesn't know their neighbour? Yeah, do you know what their names are? Do you know their stories? Do you know if they like growing food? Have they grown food in the past? Do they have experience in growing food? Can they help you? And together, together is the best way to do it. And I say that as well for people who want to live on the land, because living on the land is hard work, and growing your own food is hard work, but together you can do it. And swap. There are Facebook groups in Port Macquarie to swap food. And I'll go, I have way too much parsley. Does anyone want parsley? Sometimes I get something in return, but I'm happy to give it. Because I know that someone else will give me something else at another stage as well. And it's not about that. It's about, I'm growing food. Use it.
Yeah. It's efficient as well. I mean, if you think worldwide, that's actually how trade started, right? Like it was kind of, okay, you focus on growing that, we focus on growing that, and then we can exchange, and
that's it.
We
and
can
that's
be
how
more productive
and
like
that's a
that.
sustainable way to go.
Yeah.
And it's, you need less money. You have more connection with the people that live around you. You're happier because you have the social connection. You're working in your garden, so you're happier because of that. You have habitat, so you have bees and you have bugs, which the kids love, by the way. Me too. Yeah, it's awesome. And I think with the family, the thing with parenting, every age has a challenge. And I've only been able to work more since the kids have been a little bit older. So when they're small, like I breastfed both of my kids until they were 2 years old, and that was complete dependence on me because they
It's a biology
thing. And that's, it was what we chose to do, and it's attachment parenting. Many people don't choose to do that, and that's their own choice, and I respect that. The thing is, with breastfeeding and attachment parenting is that it takes a lot of effort, a lot of attention from the parents.
For sure.
We believed that it was better for them to be with us and, living everyday life rather than in someone else's hands. A lot of people don't have that option. A lot of people need to work. And we chose to have a simpler lifestyle, and I think that's one of the tips as well. If you can give up a few things to be able to be at home with your kids, the connection you create and what they will learn from you is so valuable. If you think of indigenous cultures, the original cultures, they always had each other. They always had the kids. They had the grandparents around. And it was the whole thing of the village. Don't do it alone. Have a village around you. Have friends that you can swap kids, I try and do that as well.
Kids.
Yeah. Like on a Friday, I know that our son can go and play at a friend's house, so I can work a bit. And then the next Friday, we'll do it the other way around, so she can work a bit. And I think you just have to look out of your box. I think that is the biggest thing with anything.
And be open for connecting with other people, right? To be able to create this network of like-minded people, of people going through the same things, to actually be able to share experiences, thoughts. You can grow much faster as well, right?
And the only way you're going to do it is talking to people. Knock on your neighbor's door. Yeah. Take them some cookies, or take them a plant.
Yeah, I think it's what you said. We're so, especially
in the city.
Here, yeah, exactly. Here in the city, we're in São Paulo, and here everything is so confined in a way, right? Like you have your apartment, you close the door, you're in your little bubble, you get out, you get into the elevator, into the car, to another bubble, and you don't get to kind of, as you said, like just to kind of, you can do that, of course, but it's not the normal, I'll say that. Like it's not the usual
behavior. I think the problem is, I think as a human being, we need people around us. Yeah, we are social beings, despite the fact that some of us enjoy being alone. We still need people.
Solitude is important.
Correct.
But too much is also,
correct. I think the issue here, it may be like that in many other big cities, is safety, okay, and trust. There's a lot of criminality here, and there is a lot of fear. Yeah, everyone here lives in fear. I'm very happy that I'm not here anymore. And my acupuncturist said that you fled your hometown. Like, yes, I guess I did. You kind of feel like you're in a cage here, don't you? And like, yeah, I am kind of in a cage because I'm afraid. And every corner there could be someone with a gun, and it's scary. You have to be very aware of that. But in your own building or in your own neighborhood, try and meet your neighbors. Exactly. That can help with criminality as well. Because once they know you, once you had a conversation, the likelihood of them hurting you is a lot less.
Yeah, and you get to a more human side, right?
Connection.
Yeah, exactly, human connection.
And sharing and swapping and all of that. But with parenting, I think only now, so Sebastian is 4 years old now, and now I feel like, I have a bit of time, more time for myself. I can actually do a yoga practice. I can teach yoga. I can leave them with Jason or with a friend. Because before that, it didn't really work. It was too stressful for me to leave the house.
Yeah, and it's also moments, right? Like, as you said, it's decisions, it's moments. I mean, maybe before you couldn't, but now you can a bit more. So yeah, I guess each period has its own moment, its own challenges as well. But the good things, I mean, there's always the good and the bad.
Yeah.
I don't want to call it bad, but challenges. I think it's maybe more the correct.
And
word.
yeah, and I think another tip, because you're asking about tips, right, for parents or anyone who would like to lead a more sustainable life or whatever. It's not putting pressure on yourself, yeah? Like, we often do that as a society, I think. We try and go, oh, I'm a mother, I should have a clean house, but I should be cooking and I should have my own whatever and I should be working. And why? Why should you? If it doesn't work for you, don't do it. Don't put that blame that I need to or I should or just take that out of the mind. I think that's a really good thing. And remembering that every life stage has a challenge and you follow what's right for your family. For me, it works really well to have my own food, if I can. I can't grow a lot of food. At the moment, by the way, my garden looks like a weed patch.
Because you're not there, or because...
In general, it's looking like that for a few months. But I eat weeds. It's another sustainable
so you
thing.
learn how to eat the weeds.
There is a lot of foraging information. And
of course.
we have to learn how to use what is around us. There's so many weeds that grow everywhere in town that you can eat. They're good for you.
Yeah, we lost a lot of knowledge throughout the years, many years.
Too much knowledge.
Yeah.
And there's so much that we can grow in our home that is healthy for us. There's medicine for us. And that is easy to grow. You just put it in the ground and it grows. And I know a lot of people don't have ground. Yeah. But I know in Sydney, for example, a lot of people that live, in small spaces or apartments, they're starting to plant in the verge. So whatever grass there is in front of your building,
there will be
plant.
Something, yeah.
Put some oregano in there and herbs, so the whole building has herbs to eat from. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a change in the mentality. It's a change in the perspective, right? And I think there's two things. I think one of the things that you said, just kind of take off the pressure of yourself. I think that can be applied to anything, anywhere, to everyone, right? Like, that's just do your thing, and that's it. And the other thing is, I think you mentioned a bit kind of indirectly, it's the choice that you have, right? I mean, I know many people don't have the choice, but many people do. And I think that's also something that often can get forgotten. That you have you don't have to live in the city. I mean, sure, many people will argue and say, yeah, but I have a job, I have this, I have responsibilities here, I have this and that. But yeah, also those were choices.
And living in a city is more expensive. Yes, you earn more money, but you'll be spending more money. If you have a simpler life, oh no, it is a choice, you can earn less and you can have a happier life, because happiness is not in money.
Exactly.
Happiness is in who you are, who you want to be, where you want to spend time and what you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, the argument still comes in that you still need money nowadays to live, because it's still a capitalism society, so you still need to get around.
True, but it comes back to the sustainability factor. Another really, really big issue is, can you imagine, or we should all put in our minds, there's now 8 billion people in the world, correct? If every single person buys one packet of strawberry that comes in plastic every day, how many little packets of plastic are there? Everything we buy, you need to be aware of what you're buying. Every single plastic you buy will be in this world forever. That's why there's so much plastic in the ocean too, because it's not going anywhere. It keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller until you can't see it, but it's still there. And then the animals eat it.
And then you eat the animals.
And then if you eat the animals, or not even the animals, if you're vegan or vegetarian, it goes into the ground. There's so much rubbish in the ground.
Water as well, yeah.
Where does the waste go? What happens to the waste? Do you know?
Well, it depends where. But
okay.
Again.
What happens to the waste? Do you know what happens in Switzerland? What happens to the waste in Switzerland?
Well, they burn it.
They burn it. Okay. Yeah. What happens when you burn waste?
They create energy out of the waste.
Okay. And does it come out in carbon dioxide or not?
To make difficult questions.
Okay. What happens with the waste in Brazil?
It gets probably dumped in a landfill.
Correct. Landfill, what happens with all that plastic under the ground?
It stays there.
Yeah, but does it stay there or does it travel through the
it
water,
travels, of
through
course.
the
No,
oil?
that's what I'm saying. It's
It
everywhere.
goes into the rivers, it goes into the soil, it goes absolutely everywhere. So we eat it. We eat everything we buy, we eat.
Exactly.
It's disgusting. And I think that's one of the biggest things for me in sustainability. I get angry, as you can hear in my tone of voice. I get really angry with capitalism, with buying and buying and buying without thinking that it will be here forever.
No, for sure.
Even if it breaks, whatever.
For
It's
sure.
just,
Yeah, but I mean, my point is more in the sense of like, for certain things you still need to buy. I mean,
but it's how you buy it.
Yeah, for sure.
And yes, it can be a choice as well. If you have more money, you can buy fancier things. But you can also choose to go to the market where you buy things without the plastic.
Yeah, for sure.
And anyone has a choice of that because markets are often cheaper than going to the shops. So it's about choice. It's making the choices in your life and
putting it in the balance and say what's more important for you, what makes more sense. It goes back to it, I guess, at the end, to what you said previously, right? Like, do your thing, but again, don't say it's not possible because that's a choice, right? Because a lot of people might say that, I can't do that, or but I don't live in the countryside, or I don't do that. Often if you say something, there's a lot of comments like that come, and you're like, you can change that. You can if you want, if you have the choice.
And I think it's about thinking, about realizing that you can be different. You can do it differently. You can, if you start thinking about your grandchildren, I think you can do it differently. And when you're in the shop and you see an apple packaged in cling wrap and an apple not packaged in cling wrap, you have the choice of which one you buy.
But I have to say, in Switzerland, that's always a difficult thing to choose because you have the packaged apples are the organic ones and the unpackaged apples are the normal ones. And you're like, okay, am I gonna go for the pesticides or am I gonna go with the plastic? So
that's it. And that's the thing. Everywhere in the whole world is different, but we do have a choice. But it's the same comes with timber things, right? Even us as children, we always had timber toys. And there's this thing, it's so nice to have wooden toys instead of plastic toys. But where does that wooden toy come from? From a tree. Has that tree been cut down?
Yeah, it's the same with the whole discussion on plastic bags and paper bags.
Correct. Yeah, the plastic
same.
bags last longer than the paper bag.
Don't get a bag.
Well, I guess you can use a fabric bag if that can be composted. Have you tried putting your underwear in the compost?
No, I've never tried it. I never observed much.
I challenge you all to do it and see what comes out of it. If your compost is really good and it has heat, the only thing that will be left is the plastic, the elastic bit that is left, because cotton is compostable. Cotton is natural.
Interesting. There's a lot of things that come into my mind, but I think we can talk about it for hours and hours about. Yeah, exactly. So, what's on the pipeline concerning future projects, be it your own private ones, be it from the family, be it anything?
Well, projects, I don't really like talking about projects until there's something happening, so I'm not going to tell you my ideas.
Okay. I'm mysterious.
I'll tell you after this as well.
Okay.
Future projects, I'm not entirely sure. I think living day by day is, as a family, often I don't have a lot of time to think about, what may happen or what would happen. But future projects, not sure. Traveling a little bit with the kids and seeing the grandparents, I think that's one of the most important things at the moment.
The Brazilian ones.
The Brazilian parents, grandparents. The Australian ones are in Australia. They're very close to us. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see where the world takes me. As you can see from the day I've left Brazil, or even from the day I was born, everything has changed. Everything has evolved and has taken me in different paths that I didn't know I was going to. I never thought I would start at school.
Exactly. Cool. So I'm curious to know whatever's going to happen. Doors are open there. Where can people connect with you if they want to exchange some ideas or see? I know you started on social media. You don't post that much, but occasionally you will post some things of your daily life, which I think it's quite nice to see. Yeah. Where can people connect with you?
Well, I guess you can connect with me through Maya. She's my sister. Or through social media. You can probably find me on social media. Just put my name in there and you'll find it. I'm not much in technology at all, and I think that's one of the parenting things that we decided not to have phones all the time. We don't have a TV at home, and and the kids don't have iPads. We don't have an iPad. I have one tablet that sometimes we use when we're traveling. So yeah, social media is probably the best way. You're welcome to use my email as well, but I think social media is the easiest way. Instagram or Facebook, yeah.
I'll put the links on the show notes. And then one last question. If you could give one advice to your younger self, what would it be? It could be your younger self from a month ago before you came to Brazil without the kids, or it could be the younger self studying in Switzerland, or the one going to Dubai, or even the one going to Switzerland actually as well. Yeah, whichever version of you choose.
At any point in life, I think we should take on breathing, meditation, mindfulness. To be honest, I don't do much meditation, but
why not?
Because I don't find the time.
It's a choice.
Because it's a choice. But yoga for me is my meditation. And what that has taught me is, and that's what I would tell my younger self, to not worry about things and to let things go. To step forward, put the other step forward. Things will happen in life that you don't expect, that you don't like. They're absolutely horrible, and that you would not wish that it would happen to anyone else, but you move on. And I think that's what I have told myself as a younger person. I was very anxious, and yoga taught me to breathe and to be in the moment and not worry so much about what could have been or what happened or what will happen or may happen, but to just be.
Well, I think there is no better ending than that. I think that was a pretty beautiful ending, so we'll leave it to that. Thank you so much, Sybil, for accepting the challenge of recording. We're not going to have a video this time because we're just more comfortable not doing it.
Thank you for the challenge.
Yeah.
I don't like being interviewed. I definitely don't like cameras, so thank you for understanding that.
No worries, we respect each other. So thank you, and see you around.